Welcome to the Green Building Show, where we investigate green design and building trends throughout Australia.
This week on the Green Building Show, we continue our look into big design ideas for small spaces. I'll be sitting down with Robert Parisi, a bathroom and kitchen interior design specialist, and he's going to explain the steps we needed to really transform these key internal spaces. We're continuing our series today about doing big things with small spaces. Joining us today is Robert Parisi. He's the director of Robert Parisi Interior Design based in Sydney. Thanks for being with us, Robert.
Thanks for having me.
So your speciality is kitchen and bathroom design. So in your opinion, what's the potential for these spaces to really transform the interior of a house?
Well, I think that they are some of the key spaces in a house. They're often the spaces that create the wow factor. So yeah, I think that the way that we live today, the kitchen becomes very key into the rest of the living space, and so it's important to sort of take that into consideration and make sure that it is a space that has its functionality but also integrates well with the rest of the house.
Great.
In a bathroom sense, I would guess you could look at it as a place where people have spent, preparing themselves in the mornings for work and all that sort of thing, and it's their own time, and so you want to create something that's sort of a pleasant space to be in, and a space where people can sort of, I guess, enjoy their environment. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what's the key to these spaces? Is it functionality is king, or is it really creating something that's, like you said earlier, that wow factor?
I think you need to look at both of those things. I think the functionality is always one of the prime thought processes that need to be looked at. Obviously, if a space is fantastically designed but it doesn't function well then it hasn't sort of ticked all the boxes. So definitely I would start with functionality and then look at the other bits
Okay.
that come into it.
All right, fantastic. And as you probably know, a lot of homeowners are working with whether it's budget restrictions or also construction constraints. So I guess what are some options available if people are working to those kind of restrictions?
Well, I guess in the sense of budget restrictions, once you have your design, your layout and how it functions, then the next step is how do you finish it? So I guess that's where budget comes into it, and basically saying, how do we use, for example, in a kitchen, stone bench tops or laminate bench tops or stainless steel, and in the bathrooms, do we use marble tiles, do we use porcelain tiles, and all those sorts of things. So yeah, definitely looking at the finishes helps with the budget. Yeah.
Okay, great. So finishes are often where budgets can blow out.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and so obviously looking at finishes is one part of it, and what else goes into planning these spaces?
Well, obviously you need to look at things like the services. For example, in a bathroom scenario, where your outlets are, for example, your wastes, where your water comes in from for your taps, for your vanity or your shower, etc. So you need to look at those sort of services too.
And so, okay, looking at these two different zones now, obviously every project and every home is different. But if you could apply some core principles to a kitchen, what do you think those core principles would be?
Well, once again, functionality, and making sure that you understand how you want to work in that space. So I think it's important to look at, and everybody sort of is different and everybody lives in their space differently, so it's important to understand how you like to work, for example, in your kitchen, and make sure that the layout is in accordance with that. For example, the distances between the sink and the island bench top not being too far away, so that you're not sort of constantly feeling like you're travelling from one end all the way to the other.
Yep.
The distance to the fridge, and then also storage of other things. So there are things that you use on a day-to-day basis, and then there are things that you use on a once in a blue moon. So obviously how you store those things and accessibility to them.
Okay, so accessibility to appliances and to other amenities is essential?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. And what about what about a bathroom space? Is some core principles you can apply there?
Similarly with the bathroom, understanding on how you want to work in that space. But I believe storage is always a problem in bathrooms, and often you've got a bathroom and you've got a vanity with 2 drawers, and everything needs to go into those 2 drawers, and the doors have got all plumbing and everything in them, and you can't really use that space too well. And I'm actually a big fan of shaving cabinets where you've got some storage behind and they're mirrored, and they serve 2 purposes. They've got good storage, very accessible, but the mirror also, you know, makes the space feel larger and reflects light, and it's got a great functionality to it too. So trying to sort of make your sort of spaces work for more than one purpose, for example, a mirror, but also having a bit of storage behind and that sort of thing.
Okay, great. So storage is key for a bathroom, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so I guess what's the potential for good storage to really improve the aesthetic feel of the design?
Well, I think that careful consideration of storage and how it affects the aesthetic is, well, try and hide it. So, you know, not making it too obvious that that's where, you know, the toilet rolls are kept, or, you know, the toothbrush is sort of, you know, behind there. And so I think it's a way of cleverly thinking about how do you make these things sort of fit into their given spaces, and obviously provide their function without sort of doing it in an ugly way, or you know, not so nice on the eye.
Yep, great. Okay, and what do you think, in your experience, is one of the biggest misconceptions around interior design for a bathroom or a kitchen?
Well,
sorry, I'll rephrase that. Well, I guess what's one of the biggest commonly made mistakes?
I think sometimes people will sort of look at what are the various components in, say, a bathroom, and then it sort of almost gets tackled in a way where, okay, the toilet's in that corner, vanity's in that corner, shower's in that corner, and the bath is in the other corner, and it's sort of like all these things are just plonked into the space, but they're not really sort of working well together. And I think that's where a lot of people come undone, where it's sort of just like, you know, just all these things plonked, rather than sort of thinking about how can we make these spaces all work together.
All right, and obviously, you know, employing a designer such as yourself, or at least talking to them, is a great way to, you know, a great way to, as a starting point, to work out where it's going to go. But what can, you know, homeowner do on their own to really consider how the items in a space can interact with each other?
Well, I think it's very important for a homeowner to sort of study the way that they live those spaces, and make sure that whatever they decide to do sort of addresses their lifestyle. I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to any of these spaces, be it a kitchen or a bathroom. Yeah.
Okay, and do you think homeowners should always be looking, if their budget permits, structural renovations, or can you really, or is it possible to really transform a space just with the design elements?
It's hard to sort of say that it's always the case where structural changes will improve a space. It's almost like you have to sort of look at the space that's available to you and see how it can work, and then as a next step sort of say, okay, if we then went to this stage of knocking out a wall between, often there's a linen cupboard sometimes next to a bathroom space, and something that's commonly done is the linen cupboard gets ditched and the bathroom space becomes larger. So the consideration is, what's there to be gained as against what's there to be lost? Because you've lost your linen space, and then can you put it somewhere else? Or yeah, all of those sorts of things. So
there is always a trade-off.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a matter of weighing out the pros and cons and seeing what's more valuable to you and lifestyle and what your final product's going to be. Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, obviously in this series we've spoken with a lot of interior designers, and they all do have a preference for knocking down interior walls. Yeah. Is that something that you agree with?
Well, I think we live today in more open plan spaces, and obviously, you know, to do that you need to knock out walls. So, you know, knocking out some walls and opening up spaces, I think it gives a feeling of more spaciousness, light and airy sort of mood to the space. And you know, that's what we tend to enjoy and like in these particular spaces. So that's...
All right, final question, Robert. So if there was one takeaway from this interview, or one key message that you would like to give people, what do you think that would be for, you know, creating the right space for their kitchen and their bathrooms?
Well, I think it's important to consider as I mentioned before, the functionality of the space and how you want it to function, how you would function in that space, looking at the key elements that are going to go into that space. And I think also it's very important to consider the mood that you want that space to sort of convey. So, you know, whether it be a light and airy, or whether it be an intimate mood, or so to look at that and then think about what can be done to sort of give you that, be it with finishes or be it with layout. Yeah.
Perfect. Robert Parisi, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, thanks.